Hello. How is everybody today? Sorry, I'm trying to eat my lunch real quick. I worked with a student during most of my lunch break. Anyway. Avery, I got the message from your mama, and that's just fine. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Let's go ahead and take a look at our homework. Let's see. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, let's see. Yeah. All right, it looks like we had activities 2, page 51, activities 5, page 52, and activities 8, page 54. Is that right? No, activities 5, that was from, no, that's right. Page 51, activities 2, page 52, activities 5, and page 54, activities 8. Is that right? All right. So we'll go ahead and start with page 51, activities 2. Let me get my book open. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and write in the answers here so y'all can see them, and then you can check yours. And then if we need to go through any of them, we will. All right, so let's see. This one is going to be 1082.87. Underneath that, we will have 950.448. Underneath that, subtraction 494.88. 642.34. 727.87. And then 881.271. And over here, 830.75. 116. 63.6488. 657.7727. All righty. So here are the answers. Go ahead and check your answers. Let all the numbers come back. Okay, so go ahead and check your answers. And if there's any of these that you would like me to work, let me know. Okay, if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and go on to page 52, activities 5. 52, activities 5. We are solving for x. We have equalities with our equal sign. And then we also have some inequalities. We use our rules of equality to be able to move things from one side to the other. We have to use our distributive property to be able to distribute a number outside of parentheses to terms that are inside parentheses if we have to. And then with our inequalities, we solve them just like we do equalities, with the main difference, excuse me, the main difference is if I multiply or divide by a negative number, I have to flip my sign, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at the answers for these. And again, if there's any of them that you need me to work out, let me know. So let's see, we have x equals 6 on this first one. Underneath that, x is equal to 14. And then underneath that, x is less than -2. Any questions about the left-hand column? Okay, let's look at the middle. In the middle column, x equals 9. X equals -1. And x is greater than 3. Any of those you want me to work out? Is everybody good? Okay, let's look at the right-hand column. Excuse me. X equals 2. X equals -14. X is greater than -3. Did you remember to flip that sign? Any of those you want me to work out? Remember, if you have questions, let me know so I can work them out. All righty. Then our last little bit of homework was page 54, activities 8. So we're going to jump on down to 54. Activities 8 was doing the same thing. So let me go ahead and get the first one. X is equal to 14. Underneath that, x is equal to 11. Then x is less than -4. Any of those you want me to work? Middle column, x equals 7. X equals -2. X is greater than 2. Any of those? Right-hand column, x equals 2. X equals 5. X is greater than 1. Did you remember to flip that sign? Everybody good with all that? Awesome. Very good, very good. Okay. So, let's see. We dealt with adding our decimals. I'm going to flip back for just a second. We worked at adding and subtracting decimals. We talked about how we have to make sure to line up our decimal point and then make sure everything else is lined up according to the place value. If I have any numbers that are missing values, I can plug in my placeholder 0 to help me solve. And then we worked on our comparing decimals, and we talked about how We always start with our whole numbers and compare first, and then we just move place value to place value depending on what's next to be able to compare which is greater than or less than. Okay. Now we're going to move on to multiplying decimals. Okay. So when I'm multiplying decimals, it says to treat the problem as a regular multiplication problem, ignoring the decimal until the end. So when I'm multiplying, I don't have to worry about dealing with my decimal until I get to my final answer. Okay. When you have the answer to the multiplication problem, count the total number of digits that come after the decimal point in the why can I not say that? Multiplicand, there we go, and the multiplicand and the multiplier, okay? Easy for me to say. All right, so the multiplicand is just the first digit, okay? So like in this situation, this is the multiplicand and this is the multiplier. So what they're saying is I look to my original problem and I say, okay, this one has 2 decimals, this one has 1, 2 plus 1 is 3, so my answer would have 3 decimal places. Okay, so count that number, add them together, and then that's what you do. Okay. Alrighty, and so it says if the answer doesn't have enough digits, you can add zeros until you have enough places if you need to. All right, so when you multiply 0.3 times 0.4, 3 times 4 is 12. And so we can see that I've got 2 decimal places here. So that means I've got 2 decimal places in my answer. 0.3 times 0.2, 3 times 2 is 6. But I've got a decimal place here, 1 here. So that's 2 places. So I have to have 2 decimal places in my answer there. Okay. So let's go ahead. It says when multiplying vertically, work the problem as usual and add the decimal point at the end. So we're going to go ahead and work on these. All right, so if I have 0.2 times 0.4, again, if you wanted to go ahead and write them vertically, you could. Whoop, that needs to be a 4. And so 2 times 4 is 8. But notice that I've got 2 decimal places. And so what I would need to do is I would need to go ahead and add in a 0 in front of the 8 to make sure that I've got my 2 decimal places. So I would need to put a 0 here and have 0.08. Because I've got to have 2 places after the decimal. And remember, I wouldn't put a decimal after the 8 because that is the same as that, okay? So having zeros at the end does not affect my place value. It's having the decimals before and having the 0 in front of it. So now we have 3 times 0.5. So 3 times 0.5, 3 times 5 is 15. So I need 1 decimal place. So I would start to the right of my number and count it over 1 place. So my answer would be 1.5. 1.1 times 0.4. 1.1 times 0.4. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. I've got 2 decimal places, so I start at the end, come over 2 places, so that's where my decimal would be 0.44. You can put a 0 in front of it if you want to. You don't have to. It's totally up to you how you want to do that. Now, notice I have 1.1 squared. That means I'm going to multiply 1.1 times 1.1. Remember, that means when I have an exponent, I multiply that number by itself that number of times. So 1.1 times 1.1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Placeholder 0 and move over. 1 times 1 is 1 and 1 times 1 is 1. Add them up. 1, 2, 1. Now I look at my problem. I have 1 place there, 1 place there. 1 plus 1 is 2. So I start at the end of my number and bring my decimal over 2 places. So my answer is 1.21. Another way you could have done that is just said, hey, 11 times 11 is 121. I've got 2 places for a decimal, so I move my decimal over 2 places. It's up to you. Now they've gone ahead and lined these up vertically for us. So again, we're just going to multiply and not worry about our decimals to begin with. So 2 times 4 is 8. 6 times 4 is 24, so I put down my 4 and carry my 2. 7 times 4 is 28, plus the 2 that I carried will be 30. Put my placeholder 0, because I need to shift over. 2 times 2 is 4. 6 times 2 is 12. Put down my 2. I'm going to cross that out and carry my 1. 7 times 2 is 14, plus the 1 I carried is 15. This time I put 2 placeholder zeros because I've got to move over 2 places. And 2 times 1 is 2. 6 times 1 is 6. And 7 times 1 is 7. So I add them all up. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 4 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 2 is 4. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8 plus 6 is 14. So I put down my 4 and carry my 1. And 7 plus 1 is 9. So now in my product, I have 9, 4, 4, 8, 8. So I'm going to look at my original problem. I've got 2 decimal places in my multiplicand or whatever I called it. I've got 2 places in the first part of my problem, 1 place there. So I've got 3 decimal places. I start at the end and I come over, 1, 2, 3. So my decimal is going to go there. So 94.488 is your solution. Okay. All right, so that is all for our practice and classwork. Let's go ahead and look at our activities. All righty, so here we're just multiplying 0.3 times 0.6. 3 times 6 is 18. I have 2 decimal places, so I bump it over 2 places, so it's going to be 0.18. If I forget my decimals and I just say 12 times 6, 12 times 6 is going to be 72. Again, I forget my decimals, and so I just go when I'm multiplying, but in the end I've got 2, so I multiply, I move it over 2 places, so it's going to be 0.72. 4 times 7 is 28. I've got 1 decimal place, so I move it over 1, so I have 2.8. Now remember, this is 0.8 times 0.8. So 8 times 8 is 64. I've got 2 decimal places, so I start at the end, move it over 2, so that will be 0.64. Move over to the right. Forget my decimals right now. I've got 11 times 5 is 55. I've got 2 decimal places. So I start at the right, move 2 decimals to the left. So I have 0.55. 12 times 11. Okay, think about, we know 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 11 is going to be 132. So I'm going to go ahead and write my answer of 132. I have 2 decimal places, so I start at the end, come to the left 2, so I have 1 decimal 32. 8 times 3 is 24. 2 decimals, 0.24. 11 times 9 is 99. 2 decimals, 0.99. Everybody good with that? Any questions on those? All right, what I would like you to do is let's go ahead and I want you to do the first 2 on top and bottom. So do 9.2 times 3.7 and 61.8 times 45.7. Go ahead and work those. Okay, we'll get ready and check these. So on the first one, 2 times 7 is 14. Put down my 4, carry my 1. 9 times 7 is 63, plus 1 is 64. Placeholder 0. I'm going to move over, and 2 times 3 is 6. 9 times 3 is 27. We're going to add them up. 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. Put down my 0, carry my 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. Put down my 4, carry my 1. And 2 plus 1 is 3. All right, I have 2 places with decimals in my answer and in my problem. So I start at the right, move 2 places to the left. So 34.04 is my product. Let's look at the next one. We had 3 digits times 3 digits. Excuse me. 8 times 7. 7 times 8 is 56. Put down my 6, carry my 5. 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 5 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. 6 times 7 is 42. Plus 1 is 43. Placeholder 0, move over. 8 times 5 is 40. Put down my 0, carry my 4. 1 times 5 is 5. Plus the 4 I carried is 9. And 6 times 5 is 30. 2 placeholder zeros. 8 times 4 is 32. Put down my 2, carry my 3. 1 times 4 is 4, plus the 3 I carried is 7. And 6 times 4 is 24. Add them up. 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 9 is going to be 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. Put down my 4, carry my 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 7 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. And 2 plus nothing is 2. All righty. Now I only have 2 places with decimals. Start at the right, come over 2 places. So my answer is 2,824 and 26 hundredths. How'd you do? One of the things about especially doing multi-digit multiplication is making sure you keep everything lined up. It's real easy, especially doing 3 digits times 3 digits. It's real easy to get everything kind of out of whack and not keeping it lined up, and then you end up adding the wrong things together. So be very careful about that. Let's go ahead and do the next 2. Go ahead and work on those. 5.6 times 0.33, 1.26 times 32.4. All righty, let's go through these. I've got 5.6 times 0.33. So I'm going to multiply 6 times 3 is 18. Put down my 8, carry my 1. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16. Now put on placeholder 0. Excuse me. Since I'm multiplying by 3, I don't even have to go through all of this again. I know it's going to be an 8, then a 6, then a 1. Now I'm going to add them up. 8 and 0 is 8. 6 and 8 is 14. Carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 6 is 8. And that's just going to be a 1. Now I have 3 placeholder, I have 3 decimal points. So 1, 2, 3. My answer is 1.848. Any questions on that one? All right, the one below that, 1.26 times 32.4. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24. Put down my 4, carry my 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. Put down my 0, carry my 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Placeholder 0. 6 times 2 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus the 1 I carried is 5. And 1 times 2 is 2. 2 placeholder zeros this time. 6 times 3 is 18. Put down my 8, carry my 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And 1 times 3 is 3. Add them up. 4 plus 0 is 4. 0 plus 2 plus 0 is 2. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 8 is 18. Carry my 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 7 is 10. Put down my 0, carry my 1, and 3 plus 1 is 4. I have got 3 placeholder zeros. So now I've got to start at the end and go over 1, 2, 3 places. And I have 40.824. Any questions on those? Everybody good? All right. Then we will leave the last 6 will be our first part of homework. Okay, so we'll finish those last problems in activities 2. Let's go ahead and turn the page and take a look on the next page. I want you to go ahead and do activities 4 on this page for homework, just continuing to practice solving using the distributive property, solving for x, and using inequalities. All righty. So we've multiplied, we've added decimals, we've subtracted decimals, we've multiplied decimals. So now we're going to divide decimals. So lesson 26, dividing decimals. So it says, when dividing decimals, first look at the number of digits there are to the right of the decimal point in the divisor, the number you are dividing by. It says move the decimal point in the divisor to the far right so you have a whole number. Move the decimal point in the dividend, the number you are dividing, to the right, the same number of digits. So basically, when I look at this number right here, 1.2, I see that I've got to move my decimal one place to the right to give it a whole number. So if I move that one place, I have to move the other one place as well. Okay, so move the decimal in the divisor to the far right so you have a whole number. Remember, I cannot have a decimal in my number outside of the division sign. Okay, so however many places I move that, I have to move the decimal place the same number of digits. And if I have to move it and it doesn't have enough places, I add zeros if I have to. Okay, so just like it shows us, if 2.5 divided by 0.5 would become 25 divided by 5, and 25 divided by 0.5 would become 250 divided by 5. And then once you have eliminated the decimal point from the divisor, divide as usual. If there is a decimal point in the dividend, place the decimal point in the corresponding place in the quotient. The quotient is my answer. Typically what I do is when I divide, as soon as I move those decimals, I go ahead, and so like when I would be moving the decimal here, I would go ahead and put my decimal up in my answer before I even start dividing. Just that way it helps me to keep from forgetting my decimal in my answer, and I make sure to put it in the right place. Okay, so usually what I do is when I move the decimals, I go ahead and put it for my answer, and then I divide. So let's practice with that. The first one is 0.8 divided into 4.0. I need to move my decimal one spot to the right outside, so I have to move my decimal one spot to the right inside, and I go ahead and put my decimal in my answer. So now I have 8 into 40. 8 will go into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. So now 40 minus 40 is 0. So my answer is just 5. Let's look at the one next to it. I have decimal 8 into decimal 4. Move my decimal 1.1 to the right. So I have to move my decimal 1.4 to the right. So I go ahead and put my decimal there. Now I have 8 into 4. Well, 8 will not go into 4, so I put a 0 there. And 0 times 8 is 8. And I go ahead. No, it's not. It's not 8. Good grief. 0 times 8 is 0. So now I subtract, and I've got 4. So now this is where I add a 0, and I have to bring it down. So now I have 40. I'm going to extend my division sign. Now I have 8 will go into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. So I subtract, and I have 0 left. So my answer is decimal 5. So if a number will not divide into a number, I put a 0 there. I go through the process just like I do with regular division. I multiplied it, subtracted, but then I had to put a 0 up in my dividend and bring it down and keep going. So with decimals, that's going to be the thing, is as long as you haven't ended up with a 0 as your part to compare, I have to keep adding zeros in my dividend until I finish dividing the problem, or until I see like a pattern going where I have a repeating something going on, a repeating pattern. So let's take a look at the next one, 1.5 into 3.0. Move my decimal one time, so I have to move my decimal here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in my answer. And now 15 will go into 30 2 times. 2 times 15 is 30. When I subtract, I have no remainder. Move over to 0.15 into 30. Now in this one, I have to move my decimal place 2 places. Here, I have to move it 2 places also. So since I don't have anything after that 0, I put another placeholder 0. I'm going to extend my line right there, and I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal in my answer up there where it would go. So now I have 15 into 300. So I'm going to start with 15 into 30. 15 will go into 30 2 times. Remember, whatever number I'm dividing into, I'm going to put my number above just the place value that I divided into. So since I did 15 into 30, I put my 2 above the 0 for 30. Then 2 times 15 is 30. Subtract, I've got 0. I bring down a 0, and 15 will go into 0 0 times. 0 times 15 is 0. So I find that my answer is 20. All right, let's keep practicing with these. What I want to do is I want to move down to the bottom row. And I've got 1.8 into 23.4. I'm going to move my decimal 1 place, move my decimal 1 place. Go ahead and put my decimal in my answer. Now I'm doing 18 into 234. So I'm going to start with 18 into 23. 18 will go into 23 1 time. 1 times 18 is 18. So now I'm going to subtract. 3 minus 8 I can't do, so I'm going to make this a 13. Actually, let me do this. I'll just put a 1 here to make that a 13, and 2 becomes a 1. So 13 minus 8 is 5, and 1 minus 5, and 1 minus 1 is nothing. So I have a remainder of 5, so I bring down my 4, and 18 will go into 54. Okay, so I've got to think about my multiples of 18. So I know 18 times 1 obviously is 18. 18 times 2 is going to be 36. And 18 times 3, 3 times 8 is going to be 24. Carry my 2, so that is going to work. So 3 times 8 is 24. To put down my 4, carry my 2. 3 times 1 is 3 plus the 2 I carried. So my answer is 13. Move on to the next one, 13 into 24.7. On this one, I don't have to move my decimal anywhere on the outside number, so I leave it where it is on my inside number. So I'm going to put my decimal in my answer just so I don't forget it. Start with 13 into 24. 13 will go into 24 only one time. 1 times 13 is 13. I'm going to subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. Remember, it's at this step that you want to compare what your answer is after you subtracted to what your number is on the outside to make sure you divide it enough times, okay? If this number here is larger than this number up here, I know I haven't divided enough times. But this time I have. 11 is less than 13, so I can bring down my 7. Now I've got 13 into 117. Okay, so when I'm dividing numbers like this into a bigger number, a lot of times I'll kind of think about what are numbers that I can multiply easily. So think about like 13 times 10 would be 130. I know that it is too much, so I want to back it down a number and try 13 times 9. Well, 13 times 9, 3 times 9 would be 27, so I know it would end with a 7. I would carry my 2. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 2 is 11, so now I know that 9 is the number that works. 9 times 3 is 27, put down my 7, carry my 2. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 2 is 11. I have a 0 remainder. And then the last one on the bottom row, I've got to move my decimal one place, move my decimal one place, put it in my answer, extend my line. 9 will go into 13 one time. 1 times 9 is 9. I'm going to subtract. 13 minus 9 is 4. 4 is smaller than 9, so I can bring down that 5. And 9 will go into 45 5 times. And 5 times 9 is 45. And there's my answer. All righty. So we have multiplied decimals and divided decimals, and I don't want to look at our lesson sheet. Okay, so in this section, we've still got powers of 10. Okay, so what we're going to do is, it is almost time for break. So we will take time for break in just a minute, and then when we come back, I forgot to do one. When we come back, I'll finish that one in that bottom row, and then we're going to cover the next section dealing with powers of 10, and then we're going to have some work time, and it'll be the kind of thing where you can work through. So we'll be finishing activities 2 during our work time, and we will be doing activities 4 and activities 5. Okay, so go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back in a minute and we'll finish up that last one in activities 2. Okie doke. So we will come back and finish up. Excuse me, this one last problem on the bottom row. All right, 1.6 divided into 17.6. So I move my decimal one place, move my decimal one place. Go ahead and put it in the answer. 16 will go into 17 one time. 1 times 16 is 16. 17 minus 16 is 1. Bring down my 6, and 16 will go into 16 one time. 1 times 16 is 16. And I have no remainder. Okay. All righty. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and let's work these 4. So the last 4 on the right-hand side. So let's do these 4 right here. I want you to work those, and then we're going to check them. All right, so these were pretty easy. And this first one, I didn't have a decimal to move because 5 is a whole number. I do have my decimal in my answer. 5 will not go into 2, but 5 will go into 25 5 times. 5 times 25, I'm sorry, 5 times 5 is 25. So I have no remainder. Next to that one, 3 is a whole number again. So I just have in 2.6, and 3 will go into 0.6. 2 times 3 is 6. So again, no remainder. 0.4 into 2.8. 0.4, I have to move it one place. 2.8 now is 28, and 4 will go into 28 7 times. 7 times 4, 28. No remainder. And then the last one, 0.9 becomes 9. 2.7 becomes 27, and 9 will go into 27 3 times. And 3 times 9 is 27 with no remainder. All righty, so our first part of homework will just be to finish these 4 over in activities 2. Like I said, we would have activities 4 and activities 5 on page 58. Okay, now we're going to go on to our multiples of 10, which is lesson 29. And basically, when we think about, it says, remember from lesson 27, if I have 10 to the 0 power, anything to the 0 power is 1. 10 to the first is 10. 10 to the second is 100. 10 to the third is 1,000. Okay? And it says, now think about it this way. If I multiplied 1 times 1, that would be 1. If I multiplied 1 times 10, that's 10. If I multiplied 1 times 10 times 10, that's 100. And 1 times 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So if I think about it that way, then when I put in another number to multiply by, it kind of helps me. So I can do 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 10 times 10 is 500. And 5 times 10 times 10 times 10 is 5,000. Now, if I put in a number with a decimal, 5.14 times 1 is just 5.14. Notice if I have 5.14 and I multiply by 10, I'm just moving my decimal over one place. Okay, so it becomes 51.4. If I have 5.14 times 10 times 10, or 10 squared, or 100, that means I move my decimal over two places. So I end up with 514. And then if I multiply by 1,000, or 10 times 10 times 10, I move my decimal three places, 1, 2, 3. So that means I have to put my placeholder 0. So I end up with 5,140. So when I multiply by powers of 10, depending on what my power of 10 is, determines how many places I move my decimal. So like here, my exponent of 10 is 1, so I moved it one decimal place to the right. Here, my exponent is 2, so I move it two places to the right. Here is 3, so I move it three places to the right. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at our examples. All right, 7 times 10 to the 0 power. Remember, 10 to the 0 power equals 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1, so 7 times 1 is 7. 2 times 10 to the first. 10 to the first is 10. 2 times 10 is 20. 9 times 10 squared, or 10 to the second power. Remember, 10 to the second power is going to be 100. So 9 times 100 is 900. Whoops, didn't mean to move it. 900. 8 times 10 to the third power. 10 to the third is 1,000. So 8 times 1,000 is 8,000. Okay. So we're going to do something similar using our decimal points. Remember, anything to the 0 power, or 10 to the 0 power, is going to be 1. So this will just be 3.27 times 1 will be 3.27. 6.41 times 10 to the first. Remember, my exponent determines how many places I move my decimal. So I'm moving my decimal one place. So this will be 64.1. 5.87 times 10 to the second power. 10 to the second is like multiplying by 100, or it is multiplying by 100. So I move my decimal place two places. So it's 587. And then finally, 10 to the third is 1,000. Multiplying by 10 to the third, or multiplying by 1,000, means I move my decimal three places. I need to put that placeholder 0, so I have 9,250. Any questions on those? All right, let's do the next set. I'm dealing with some bigger numbers. 12.4 times 10 to the 0, 12.4. 69.5 times 10 to the first, or 69.5 times 10. I move my decimal one place, so that's 695. 31.6 times 100, or 10 to the second power. Move my decimal two places, 1, 2. Got to put in that 0, so I have 3,160. 74.2 times 10 to the third. Multiplying by 1,000, move my decimal three places to the right. So I have to put in two placeholder 0s. So I have 74,200. Any questions on those? And then finally, I have got some smaller numbers. We had some bigger numbers a minute ago, but now they're decimal places. These are numbers less than 1 right now, but we're going to be multiplying by powers of 10. So again, 10 times, or 10 to the 0 power is 1, so that's just going to stay 0.514. 0.873 times 10 to the first means I move my decimal one place, so now I have 8.73. 0.267 times 10 to the second power, multiplying by 100, means I move my decimal two places to the right, so I have 26.7. And 0.951 times 10 to the third means I'm multiplying by 1,000. I move my decimal three places to the right, so I have 951. So basically, whatever power of 10 you're multiplying by determines how many places you move your decimal to the right. Okay. So let's go ahead and work through activities 2. Go ahead and work this left-hand column. Look at 0, 1, 2, and 3 as my exponents and think about where you're moving your decimal. And once you're done, check your answers. Any questions with that row or column? Let's move to the next one. Go ahead and work these. And once you're finished, check your answers. And the last column. Oh, or is that? That's it. My bad. Okay, so that's all multiplying by 10 is. So let's go ahead and take a look at this page for homework, and we will have activities 4 and 5. Okay, so order of operations, think about your PEMDAS, and then multiplying and dividing decimals. So let's go ahead and talk about our complete list of homework, and then that way if you decide you want to stay logged in and work on this, you can. If you want to go ahead and sign out and work on it at home on your own or work on it later or whatever, it's going to be up to you. So let's see, this assignment, this is Powers of 10, lesson 27. So we have got, that is going to be page 62, activities 4 and 5. Okay, so our complete list of homework, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me get, here's a little sheet that I can write on. Okay, so we had lesson 25. Whoops. Lesson 25 was multiplying decimals. We have page 55, activities 2, page 56, activities 4. That's lesson 25. For lesson 26, we have got page 57, activities 2, page 58, activities 4 and 5. And then lesson 27, page 62, activities 4 and 5. It seems like a lot, but I think it's going to go by pretty quickly as you're working through it. I don't think it's going to take you much time to do at all. So it's 1:50. So you can either stay logged in and work on this right now where you've got me to ask for help if you need it. You're welcome to log off and work on it at home or log off and work on it later. Whatever you want to do, I'm going to be here. So feel free to hang out and ask questions, or if you have questions on any other things that we've been working on that you would like some help on, feel free to use this time to ask me about that as well. But if you decide to log out and decide to work on it on your own, then that is fine. You may go, and I will see you on Monday. But if not, you can hang around. Do y'all have any questions about anything I can help you with?
Not right now.
Okay. I think my screen went off.
I have a question.
Sure, what you got?
So on page 58 for activities 4.
Okay. Page
Yeah.
58, activities 4. Okay, which one?
7x plus 4 is less than 3x.
Okay. So what's your first thing you're gonna do?
Move to 3x.
Yeah, and so what happens if you have 3x minus 3x? What's that gonna equal?
X, 0.
What if you had 3 minus 3, what would it equal?
0.
0. So 3x minus 3x is also going to be 0. So you're just going to have, so you'll have 4x plus 4 is less than 0. And then what are you going to do with your 4?
You're going to move it.
How are you going to move it?
You're going to subtract.
Good. So you subtract it from each side. So then you have 7x is less than 4. And then what?
And then 7x.
What's going on with 7 and x? What is the operation there?
Oh, you'll divide it.
Yeah, you're going to divide by 7. So then you're going to end up with then you're going to end up with x is less than what?
Is less than
-4/7, right?
Yes.
So it's going to end up as a fraction.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm done.
You all done? Well, all righty. Well, good deal. Well, good job getting that done. Now it's off your plate. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye, babe.
Bye.